Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here, and in today's video, we're going to be breaking down the NBA slate on Draftkings and Yahoo for Tuesday, March the 2nd. Gonna cover Tuesday's 6-game slate. We originally were gonna have 7 games today, but there has already been a game that's gotten postponed. The Raptors and Pistons game has been postponed for today, so we're down to 6 games on the slate. We're gonna break down these 6 games, game by game, go talk through each team like we always do. Give you guys my early thoughts. What does stand out to me looking at the slate the night before, looking at the slate on Monday night. So before we do get started with the breakdown, guys, as always, I would appreciate it if you hit that like button down below. Hit that subscribe button as well if you are new here. Be sure to click the notification bell so that way you do get notified every time I upload. You also get notified every time I do go live. I will once again be live streaming this afternoon on my YouTube channel, probably around 4 o'clock Eastern time, as always, breaking down this slate, answering all you guys' questions. So if you're free Tuesday afternoon, you have nothing to do, you want to tune in, I will be live streaming on my YouTube channel on Tuesday afternoon. But yeah, guys, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, check out my Patreon content, link down below in the description as well. I do have a lot of additional stuff I post over there. If these YouTube videos really help you, you want to see more that I have to offer, you can check out the Patreon link down below. But let's go ahead and start off with the Grizzlies and Wizards game. And right out of the gate, this is probably the most appealing game on the slate, just in my opinion. Two pretty fast-paced teams. We got a really high total in this game. Right now, the total is at 237.5, which is the highest on the slate. Right now, it's just a 1-point spread as well. So we're expecting, or Vegas at least is expecting, a high-scoring and close game, which is obviously what we want to target in NBA DFS. So starting off with the Memphis side, Jval and Jamal Murray, I love both of them on this slate. Or at least Jval, he burned me last slate against Houston. Got into some foul trouble, only wound up playing 12 or 13 minutes, just had 12 DK points. But I'm not letting that scare me off of Jval here. It's another great spot against the Wizards. We know this Wizards team is terrible defensively. They've always been a bad defensive team. They play at a really fast pace. I mean, you cannot ask for a better matchup here for Jval. He's one of my favorite center plays. I'm going to be right back on him on both sides. His price tag came down a little bit on both sides. $7,200 on DK, $26 on Yahoo. He's just way too cheap for this matchup. I think we're going to get big gains from both him and Jamal Murray. I love Jamal Murray as well at 7K. Now, Jamal Murray's been someone that I can't seem to get right this year. It feels like anytime I play him, he always sucks. And then when I don't play him, that's when he has those big games. But I really like Moran here. It's hard for me not to like him at only 7K and such a good matchup like this. Moran's been underpriced recently, and he just hasn't really gotten there because of blowout. Like they've been involved in 3 straight blowouts. They won by like 30 points against the Clippers. They lost by 20 the game after that. And then last game against Houston, they won by like 50. So Morant's seen his minutes kind of be limited a little bit. But now that we're expecting a close game here, if we do get a close game, if we get 34, 35 minutes from Jamal Murray, he can easily put up 45, 50 DraftKings points in such a good matchup like this. So I love Jamal Murray as well. He's one of my favorite plays today. 7K on DraftKings, just way too cheap. And on Yahoo, even at $30 on Yahoo, I think he's also too cheap over there. I'm for sure going to be playing Moran and Valanciunas together, and I don't think there's any problem with that. I think a lot of these Memphis guys look really appealing today, just given how good of a matchup it is. Plus, they're all pretty affordable. Kyle Anderson is currently questionable, so this will be something to monitor. If Kyle Anderson were to sit, I'd assume we would probably see like Brandon Clark move into the starting lineup. I think Clark's been coming off the bench recently. I can't exactly remember, but if he were to start at 4,900, he'd definitely be in play. Dylan Brooks, I like at 5,300, just in a really fast-paced game and what should be the best game environment of the night. I mean, Brooks definitely has a path to upside, can easily pay off this $5,300 salary, especially if he does get hot from the field, which we know he can do. So I have interest in him. D'Anthony Melton, probably not going to go there, but I think with Grayson Allen out, that does benefit Melton a little bit. Should allow for Melton to play a few more minutes off the bench. Now, Justice Winslow had a really good game off the bench last game, got 21 minutes. A lot of that had to do with the blowout. I think if this game's close today, we probably get like low 20s minutes from Justice Winslow, maybe like 18 to 20. I don't really want to play Winslow, but I could see going to him just because he is super cheap. It is a really good matchup. He is a pretty productive player when he does get minutes, but I think if I'm going to target any cheap play from Memphis, it's definitely going to be Desmond Bane. Desmond Bane did start last game in place of Grayson Allen, and Grayson Allen is out once again. Now, I think Bane did get some blowout run, which helped him. He played 28 minutes in that blowout win against Houston, had 32 DK points. I'm not expecting him to be that productive today, but if he's going to start again at only 3,400 and is what the best in-game environment of the night, there is definitely a path for Desmond Bane to easily pay off this price tag. Just if we're going to get 26, 28 minutes from him at 3,400. He can easily, get 20, 25 DK points, be a solid play at 3,400. So if I'm going to go to any of these cheap Memphis guys, it's definitely going to be Desmond Bane, assuming that he is starting again. We have to keep an eye on the news with Kyle Anderson, though, because if Kyle Anderson were to sit, I'd assume they would probably start. I really don't know. Like, lately they've been starting Moran, Bane, Dylan Brooks, Kyle Anderson, and Jval. I'd assume probably Brandon Clark would move into the starting lineup, but maybe they could start Winslow, I guess. I don't really know. Just keep an eye on that. If Anderson plays, I think he's viable just because of how good of a matchup it is. But he's probably towards the bottom of my list in terms of Memphis guys. Definitely Moran and Jval are my two favorites. Then I would say Bane's probably my third favorite. Brooks will be up there, and then Clark, if Anderson's out, would be viable too. But yeah, we can go ahead and move on to the Washington side. I think we covered Memphis. Now in Washington, there's not as much that I like here. Really, if I'm going to play anyone on Washington, it's the top two guys like it normally always is. I don't have too much interest in anyone else on this team outside of Westbrook and Beal. I think on this slate, Westbrook and Beal are probably just lower owned tournament options, but I have a feeling I'm going to be playing a couple guys from Memphis, so it makes sense to run it back with someone on the Wizards. Normally, I usually always prefer to get to Westbrook, but I have a feeling if I'm playing Moran at point guard, maybe it makes sense to go to a guy like Bradley Beal at the shooting guard spot. Can't go wrong with either one. If I had to choose one, I think I would prefer Westbrook just because he can contribute more with the peripherals. He gives you that triple-double upside, but both are solid options like they always are. Again, this doesn't feel like a slate where I'm going to be going out of my way to play them, but I could see definitely putting them in, as a last piece in, or if I just want to run it back with someone on the Washington side, obviously Beal and Westbrook are going to be the first two guys I look to. But we can go ahead and move on to the next game, the Clippers and the Celtics. So in terms of DFS, this really isn't that appealing of a game. I will say that, Kawhi Leonard's price has come down to 8,800, which I think does make him appealing. Paul George, 8,400. Again, if I'm going to play anyone on this Clippers team, when Kawhi and PG are healthy, those are usually the only two guys I have interest in. I don't think I'm going to be going to any of these secondary pieces from the Clippers. It's just Kawhi and PG for me. I think both are just, lower-owned tournament plays on this slate, but definitely viable. If you want to get there, I have no problems with either Kawhi or PG. On the Boston side, we do need to watch the status of Jaylen Brown. He was questionable for their last game, ultimately wound up sitting out. He's once again questionable for this game. If Jaylen Brown is out again, I love Jason Tatum. I love Kemba Walker. I played both those guys last slate when Jaylen Brown was out. I'll have no problems going right back to them again today. Tatum had a solid game, 51 DK points in 39 minutes against Washington when Brown was out. Kemba was also solid, had 43 DK points in 33 minutes. I'd expect similar production from them today. Obviously, the matchup isn't as good, but if there were to be no Jaylen Brown, we know the usage on this team. It's going to be dominated by Tatum and Walker when Brown's off the floor. So we got to keep an eye on the status of Jaylen Brown. If he plays, I don't like too much from Boston, but if he's out again, love Jason Tatum, love Kemba Walker. Those will be two guys I'll definitely be looking to get exposure to. But I think we can go ahead and move on to the next game, Atlanta and Miami. So on Atlanta today, in terms of injuries, I think Kevin Huerter is actually probable. He's expected to play. Yeah, he's probable, so he's good to go. I don't think there's a ton of injuries here outside of the fact that, Hunter and Reddish both remain out. On this Atlanta team, there is one guy I want to mention. First off, Trae Young, always viable in tournaments. This isn't a great matchup against Miami. Definitely not a spot where I really want to go out of my way to play Trae Young, but if he fits into my lineup as the last guy in, or if you're playing a lot of lineups, it makes sense to have Trae Young in your player pool. But really, I think my favorite guy is probably John Collins. So John Collins, he's been super frustrating to roster this year. If you have played him, I've played him some this season, and sometimes it's worked out, sometimes it hasn't. He's been playing better lately, though, which is good to see. His last two games, 32 and 37 minutes, so the minutes have been there, 37 and 58 Draftkings points. He had his best game of the year last game against Miami in the same matchup. Obviously, I'm not expecting John Collins to go out there and put up 58 fantasy points again, but it's good to see him playing well. John Collins is a good player. He's not going to be a guy that puts up 30 fantasy points every night. Like, he's a productive player when he is on the floor. He can score, he can get rebounds. He's got 45, 50-point upside any night. I think the upside, I don't want to say, like, it's there, obviously. It's tough to predict when we're going to get those big games from John Collins. Like, his floor is definitely pretty low at this point. Like, he's just not a guy you can rely on consistently. But the upside is there, and I think that's what's the key. And at 6,800, I'm fine going to John Collins on this slate. I think he does stand out as a solid power forward option. He is still pretty cheap on Yahoo, so I do like him over there if you're looking for a cheaper power forward. Only $27, like, that's just too cheap for John Collins, especially if, now that he's starting to play better, now that he's starting to play well. I like him at $27. If we're going to get 34, 35 minutes from John Collins, he can easily pay off this price tag. I think the minutes will continue to be there, especially with how well he's played. I don't see them going back to playing him only like 30 minutes. I think we get low to mid 30s at least in terms of minutes from John Collins. So he's probably my favorite guy from Atlanta, but I don't think I'm going to target too much else on this Hawks team. So moving on to the Heat side, really big injury to watch here with the status of Jimmy Butler. So Jimmy Butler was questionable their last game. He also wound up sitting out. He's questionable once again for today. I have no lean on whether Butler plays or not. This is just going to be news that we have to wait and see on. If Butler plays, I don't like too much on this Miami team outside of like Butler and Bam, who I think are guys you could obviously look to. It's a really good matchup. We know those both Butler and Bam have plenty of upside, even when they're playing alongside each other. We've seen both of them put up big games this year. So again, Butler and Bam I think would be in play. But if we do get word that Jimmy Butler is out once again, Bam's going to become a really, really good option. He'll definitely be one of the better center plays on the slate. The three guards, Tyler Hero, Goran Dragic, Kendrick Nunn, I would like all three of those guys a good amount if Butler were to sit. Last slate, I played Goran Dragic, and he was the one that really disappointed of the three guards. He played 30 minutes. He did start, but he only had 23 DK points. Dragic burned me last slate, but if Butler's out again, I'm going to go right back to Goran Dragic. I think he's a really good play once again if Butler is out. Kendrick Nunn as well. He had a huge game, 33 minutes, 44 DK points. I'm totally fine playing him as well. I could definitely see playing him and Dragic together. Have no problems with that either. So yeah, it's just a wait and see here with the status of Butler. If he plays, Butler and Bam I think are both viable. Probably nobody else though. If Butler's out, then love Bam and love Dragic, Nunn, and Hero would be viable too. So yeah, we just gotta wait and see what happens with Jimmy Butler. That's one of the big injuries to watch today. Well, going ahead and moving on to the next game, New York and San Antonio. So on the Knicks today, there's a couple guys I think are viable here. Julius Randle at 9,300. There's probably other power forwards I'd rather get to. I don't know if I'm going to be able to pay up at the power forward position for Randle. Randle's one of my favorite players. He's someone I've rostered a ton this year. I think he's a guy you can always play. He's always in play for me. Again, though, this doesn't feel like a slate where I'm going to be really going out of my way to play him. RJ Barrett finally looked good last game. He had 36 DK points in 35 minutes. He's been playing much better lately. He kind of feels like a John Collins type play to me. At this point, we don't really know what we're getting from RJ Barrett on a nightly basis, but the upside is still there. It's good to see him playing well lately. At 5,900, I think RJ Barrett is definitely viable. With Elfrid Payton once again doubtful, I think we can look to go right back to Derrick Rose. He played 32 minutes last game, even on the back-to-back. Played 38 minutes the game before that. I think we're going to get over 30 minutes from Derrick Rose tonight. At 5,900, we've seen the upside that Derrick Rose has when he's getting big minutes. Now that he's starting for Elfrid Payton, while Payton remains out, the upside is definitely there for Derrick Rose. So I still like him a good amount at 5,900. But honestly, my favorite guy from the Knicks is probably Nerlens Noel. 5,200 on DK, still pretty affordable. He's still pretty affordable on Yahoo as well at the center position, coming in at $18. So I like Nerlens Noel a good amount here. We've seen that with Taj Gibson out, that has been a huge boost for Nerlens Noel. The last two games that Gibson has missed, we've seen Noel play 41 and 40 minutes. It's very likely that he gets around 40 minutes today. They've been running a really tight rotation. They basically have been playing one of Noel or Randle on the floor at all times. We know Noel is going to start and probably get about 6 or 7 minutes out of the gate. Then he'll go to the bench, take a rest, and then normally as soon as Randle subbed out, Noel will come back in. I'm pretty sure last game Noel played 6 or 7 minutes. He subbed out, and then he checked in at the start of the second quarter and played the entire second quarter. He played 7 or 8 minutes in the third quarter, checked out, and then he played the entire fourth quarter. He's just getting monster minutes right now with Taj Gibson out. The production on a point per minute basis, it's not been as high as I would like. Noel hasn't been as productive as you would like, but still at 5,200, if he's going to be playing around 40 minutes, he's too cheap at 5,200 for a player that, like Noel, that has shown he can be productive when he does get minutes. So I do like Nerlens Noel quite a bit while Taj Gibson remains out. I think with Gibson listed as out for today's game, I'm pretty sure he's already been ruled out. He was out there last game. I think I saw he was out today. So with Gibson out again, I really like Nerlens Noel. But that does it for the Knicks. We can go ahead and move on to the San Antonio side. So this is a back-to-back for the Spurs. That will be something to monitor. I'd assume everyone would be good to go here, but wouldn't be surprising to maybe see somebody rest. But on the back-to-back, in this matchup against the Knicks, this is not the greatest spot for these Spurs guys. It's a tough matchup. It's against the slow-paced Knicks team. If I was going to play anyone on the Spurs today, it would probably be DeRozan or Dejounte Murray, but neither one look like standout plays for me. There's just so many other guys I'd rather get to in their price ranges. At point guard, I'd much rather play Jamal Murray for $800 less than Murray. At the forward spot, there's other forwards I'd rather play over DeRozan. I'd rather play John Collins for cheaper, I think. If Jaylen Brown gets ruled out, I'm going to want to get to Tatum over DeRozan. So, yeah, it's just not a ton I like from the Spurs team. just not a good matchup. The Knicks are not really a team you want to target because they play so slow. They're good defensively. I don't think there's any Spurs that stand out today. So we can go ahead and move on to the next game, Denver and Milwaukee. So this should be a really, really good game. This is another game that has a very high total. I think the total's at like 236. It's right behind the Memphis-Washington game. Starting off with the Denver side, this is a back-to-back for the Nuggets as well, so that'll be something to note. I'd assume everyone would be good to go here, but just keep an eye on it. Nikola Jokic, 10,800. Look, I never mind playing Jokic on this slate or on any slate, but again, this is a slate where there's a lot of centers I like. In the mid-range, you got Jval, you got Noel for a little bit cheaper. It's going to be tough to pay up for Jokic, I think, but he's always in play for me. I have no problems getting to him if I can. Jokic, in a fast-paced game in what should be one of the better game environments of the night, Jokic has a ton of upside here, so he is definitely in play. Jamal Murray, I played him on Yahoo Monday night. It did not go well. He did not have that good of a game against the Bulls. He's probably going to be lower owned. He hasn't been playing as well lately. We saw him have such a good stretch where he was just going out there and crushing every night. He's been disappointing over his last two games, but we know the upside Jamal Murray has. He's still viable in my opinion, but I don't think he's like a top option for me. Michael Porter, though, I'm going to continue to roster Michael Porter. 6,700 on DK. I still like him a good amount there. On Yahoo, he's still very affordable at the small forward position. Really like Michael Porter at $24 on Yahoo. So he just continues to get monster minutes on a nightly basis. Played 40 minutes against Washington, or 41 against Washington, 40 against Portland. Only played 28 against OKC, but that was a blowout. Monday night in their game against the Bulls, he did play 35 minutes in that game, and he was really productive. He finished with, I think, over 40 fantasy points on Yahoo. They haven't updated the box score yet, but I'm pretty sure he finished with like 40-something DK points. He's just a productive player when he gets minutes, and it seems like he's on the good side of Mike Malone right now. It seems like Mike Malone's going to be giving Michael Porter Jr. big minutes on a nightly basis, especially while all these guys remain out for the Nuggets. JaMychal Green's going to remain out. Paul Millsap's going to remain out. I'm pretty sure Gary Harris and Campazzo are also going to be out once again. So this is going to be a pretty shorthanded Nuggets team. We should see big minutes for Jokic, Murray, Barton, Michael Porter Jr. Monte Morris should probably play over 30 minutes. I think all those guys are viable. But when you look at the pricing, I think Michael Porter might be my favorite at 6,700. He's a guy that I do like quite a bit here, especially in a fast-paced game where there's going to be a lot of shot attempts, a lot of opportunities for him to get shots up. That's what Michael Porter is best at. He's a good scorer. He can rebound very well. I do like him quite a bit once again, but I think Will Barton's viable as well. Monte Morris you could look to, but really like Jokic, really like Michael Porter, Murray, Barton, Morris. I think they're solid options as well. PJ Dozier, if you need a punt play, he could definitely be viable. I can't remember how many minutes he played on Monday night. I don't think he played a ton, but let me check that real quick. He was set to get more minutes with Campazzo, not expect to play with Campazzo out Monday night. That definitely benefited PJ Dozier. In their game against the Bulls, once I can get it pulled up here, I'm pretty sure he played like 18 or 20 minutes if I'm not mistaken. I think he was pretty productive on a point per minute basis. Honestly, I can't exactly remember. He played 18 minutes. He wasn't that productive, but I think we're probably going to get maybe low 20s minutes from PJ Dozier, 20, 22, 3,200. If you need a cheap option, he could be viable, but I think I'm probably going to just stick to the starters. I don't know if I'm really going to get to any guys on the bench from the Nuggets today. So moving on to the Milwaukee side and looking at the Bucks here. So Jrue Holiday is back with the team. He didn't play a ton in his first game back. He only played 18 minutes, but with him being back, that slightly that hurts Giannis a little bit. That hurts Chris Middleton a little bit. Giannis, though, I still think, as always, Giannis is usually one of the best pay-up options on the slate. I think, once again, he stands out as a top stud option if you can get him in. This is a slate where the mid-range does look really good. There's a lot of guys in that 7K, 6K range that I really like today. But, if value opens up, if I can pay up for Giannis, I think he is, as always, one of the best pay-up options on the slate. Chris Middleton, now that Jrue Holiday's back, I'm not as interested in him. Now that Holiday's back as well, I don't really want to play him either, especially not at 7,200. Given that he only played 18 minutes last game, I don't really know how many minutes Jrue Holiday's going to play today. So this Bucks team, it's pretty easy for me. It's just Giannis, and I don't think anyone else I'm going to be looking to on Milwaukee outside of Giannis. So we can go ahead and move on to the last game of the night, the Suns and the Lakers. So on the Suns today, there isn't too much that stands out on the Suns team. If I'm gonna play anyone, it's gonna be Booker, Paul, and Ayton like it's always been. But I don't think any one of those three guys are gonna be guys I really get to like in my one lineup today. Sure, if you're playing a lot of lineups, it makes sense to have them in your player pool. If I had to play anyone from the Suns, it probably would be Chris Paul. at 7,500. We just seen massive upside from Chris Paul lately. Been really good with the assists lately. Double-digit assists in 3 straight games. He's had a double-double in 3 straight games. In a game like this against the Lakers, a big-time matchup, a game that should stay close, we should get 34, 35 minutes from Chris Paul. Probably going to give you 40 to 45 DK points. Should be a solid option at 7,500. I feel like the upside's higher on Jamal Murray for cheaper. Like, I'd probably rather play Moran in a better matchup. But, yeah, Chris Paul's definitely viable. Booker's in play. Ayton's in play. But I don't think I'm going to go to anyone else on the Suns today. So, looking at the Lakers side, the Lakers are not that appealing of a team either. LeBron, on this slate, I don't think he's really a top option for me. I'd rather play Jokic. I'd rather play Giannis. I don't like LeBron that much here. Kyle Kuzma, I think, is a little bit too expensive. Dennis Schroeder, I think, is fine at 5,700. But there's just so many other guard options that I would probably rather get to over him. And then Montrezl Harrell, like, he's fine as well. But I think there's so many other centers I'd rather play over Montrezl Harrell today. So really, this late night game, there isn't a ton that I like here. On the Suns side, if I had to play anyone, it would probably be Chris Paul. If I had to play anyone on the Lakers, it'd probably be like Dennis Schroeder. But yeah, there's no top place for me here. I don't think I'm going to be getting to anyone from this game in my one lineup tonight. But there's definitely guys, if I was playing a lot of lineups, I'd have in my player pool, like LeBron, Schroeder, Harrell, Chris Paul, Ayton. I'd have those guys in my player pool. But yeah, I think that does it for all 6 games today, guys. I think we broke everything down team by team. So I hope you did enjoy the video. I do appreciate you watching. If you enjoyed, hit that like button down below before you do get out of here. Hit the subscribe button as well. Be sure to click that notification bell so that way you do get notified every time I upload. You also get notified every time I do go live. I will once again be live this afternoon, Tuesday afternoon around 4 o'clock Eastern time. So if you're able to tune into the stream, can answer all your guys' questions. We can break everything down once again in the live stream. But best of luck tonight, guys. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. We'll see you in the next video.